Welcome to At Issue. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm H. Wayne Wilson. For the next half hour, we're going to be talking about invasive species. Yes, we'll define what invasive species means, but let me say that some of you might be familiar with the emerald ash borer, for instance. Well, we're going to talk about invasive species in the Illinois River and other bodies of water in Illinois. And right away, you're going to say, yes, the flying carp. And that usually is the silver carp. And we're going to talk about that and many other invasive species that exist in the Illinois River. And to do that, we have two experts who dedicate their lives to studying invasive species in bodies of water in the state of Illinois. First, Kevin Irons, I'd like to welcome you to the program.
Thanks for having me, H.
Kevin is the Aquaculture and Aquatic Nuisance Species Program Manager for the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. I think it pretty much defines what you do.
I get to work with these critters all the time. Yeah.
Okay, and then Andy Casper is here. Andy is the director of the Illinois River Biological Station for the Illinois Natural History Survey. I understand Illinois River Biological Station, but Natural History Survey.
That's right.
How's that work?
There was a time when the natural resources were considered a key to the economic growth of the state. This would have been in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and several surveys were set up so that we could know what sort of resources were available and what their condition was.
Before we talk about specific species, and we're going to talk about carp, and we're going to talk about bloody red shrimp, and we're going to talk about water fleas and all sorts of interesting critters, to use your term. But what defines an invasive species?
Well, I guess to start, they're usually non-native to the area we're talking about. And here in Peoria, we're talking about the Illinois River, so it's a species that's probably not found here historically. But then there's also a little thing that's it's invasive. Usually is socially involved. We don't like it because it impacts our livelihood, society, other fish, or things we care about.
But the problem is, as I did some homework on this topic, some of these species have been invasive since the 1800s. So at what point do they become native?
A lot of this is a question of perspective and how long does an animal have to be present in order to be considered a native. That really depends a lot on who you're talking to and why you're asking questions about it.
So invasive has that negative connotation.
Right.
So what makes it, I mean, are all invasive species bad?
Some of them are around and we don't ever notice them or see them. We call them naturalized if they're here a long time, self-producing populations, likely not to get rid of them. Something like the common carp. I call it grandpa's carp. It's been here for generations. Is it still invasive? Yes, there are still bodies of water it doesn't exist in. So there's always this background of how to prevent it from getting to new places.
Well, then let's bring that topic up before we talk about carp specifically. Preventing it from getting to new places. We hear about the electric barrier up in the river by Chicago. We don't want certain critters to get into the Great Lakes. Isn't that going to happen anyway? I don't mean to be negative, but isn't that really going to happen eventually?
Well, it's very difficult to say. There's the two components to an invasion. One is moving the animal to the environment. The other is having the animal survive in that environment. And if we can keep the movement pressure down, then maybe the animal never really gets a chance to get going.
Well, and some invasive species really don't thrive here.
That's correct. Asian carp are something that certainly does thrive, but probably hundreds, if not thousands, of fish are introduced around the world. It's hard to get populations established. As a fisheries biologist, for bass, bluegill, crappie, the things we like, it takes a lot of work to keep those populations up. So because a fish is introduced, it's food oftentimes initially, and takes repetitive and constant pressure to establish populations.
With regard to fish only, just talking about fish in the Illinois River, how many invasive species might we have?
Probably surviving, doing well. We have numbers of about 16 species are regularly caught in the upper Mississippi. Maybe half of those, 8 or 10, are pretty common right here in the Illinois River.
And how many might have tried to make a home here and weren't too successful?
Yeah, I would say at least 10 times that many.
Really?
Maybe up to
Absolutely.
160 different species have been introduced in the basin.
So really, invasive species aren't necessarily all that successful, except that we in the media make them sound like it's this, every time something comes over, it's going to thrive.
Well, it's, the ones we see in the media are the Frankenstein monsters. Those are the ones that attract everybody's eyeballs, but, a lot of species and invasive species are just not seen on a day-to-day basis, so we're not aware of them.
Well, let's take a look at the first one of those because it's probably the biggest of, it's called the big head carp. It can be up to 60 inches long. It can weigh 110 pounds. That's a 110-pound fish that's on the screen. That's thriving, let me say that.
Yes.
What makes this detrimental to the Illinois River? And this isn't the flying fish, by the way. Okay.
Right. This is its cousin, the big head carp. You can see how big it gets. And these are kind of like the baleen whales of our fish world. They filter the water, and so they're eating the smallest things in the river to become that large. So they're taking resources away from the other fish, the gizzard shad, the largemouth bass. All fish, when they're small, eat that same type of resource.
So it's the food chain thing.
Yeah, the Illinois River, one of the reasons it was such a productive commercial and recreational fishery is because there's so much food available. But again, you come in with large numbers of these fish that are very efficient at taking that food out of the water, and at some point there'll probably be a threshold where food gets a little scarcer.
Let's take a look at one of the jumpers, the most prolific. This is a silver carp that we want to look at next. And tell me a little bit about the silver carp. I mean, it's half the size of the previous one, but it can wallop.
You're still talking about a 20 to 40 pound fish, and the thing to remember about it too is that they travel in packs. So when one jumps, you're actually getting 5, 10, 15 in the air at the same time.
And another carp that we want to talk about is the grass carp. This was introduced in about 1963 or so. It gets up to almost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
What's bad about the grass carp?
Well, as the name implies, it eats grass or aquatic vegetation. And there's often problems in our Illinois River. We've lost almost all of our aquatic vegetation. So in an aquaculture environment, it's good. It's taking that away from competition or disease for the fish you're trying to farm. Once it gets out in the wild, now it's taking that away from the resources. And it's home for algae and snails and other foods that are very important for shelter of small fish.
Yeah.
And one of the statistics I found was as it's growing, this particular carp eats 40% of its weight every day.
They are voracious and they are eating all the time. And you can kind of think about them as little bulldozers moving through what is generally kind of a fragile habitat. It's both a nursery for young fish and it's a refuge for some of the smaller fish, as well as being the pantry where all the other food that's easy to find.
And then one more carp that's listed as invasive is the black carp. Can you tell me a little bit about the black carp?
Sure. It first came over with grass carp because they look very similar, but it eats snails. So in the aquaculture world, this is a source of disease, a trematode that infects channel catfish. No one wants to buy a fish that has worms in it. So even to this day, it's one of the best way to control snails in aquaculture, and it's still used in southern U.S. catfish ponds. Of course, it grows very large, over 100 pounds, and could threaten our mussel communities in our large rivers because you'll go from snails to larger mollusks.
And of course, we know that the Illinois River, about a century ago, was a key place for harvesting the mussels because we made buttons out of them. And
That's correct.
That's
and then
right.
plastic came around.
then plastic came around. We've talked about carp and how they've, may I use the term disrupted Illinois River life? Is that
Yes.
fair?
That's about right.
What impact does that have on the fishing type, the bass? What have we seen so far?
The impact of carp, there's several different ways they can interact with the native food web and native fish communities. The most obvious is to be taking food out of the system, but it's important to remember that adult bass also can feed on juvenile and small fish like young carp. So there's a sort of a potential for a feedback loop there. The other way, of course, that they can have an impact is that all of these species of Asian carps are very large and they tend to be in big numbers, and that can discourage other fish from hanging around. If if you're just a little 2-pound bass and you run into a school of 20-pound carp, you're probably going to choose someplace else to be.
And I know this isn't your area of expertise, but this was a flyway. The Illinois River was a flyway for ducks, and we see down at Emaquan many of the birds returning, et cetera. But can the change in the population in the river actually affect what's happening up in the air?
It could. Certainly grass carp, you can see, the ducks are coming through and eating seeds from emergent or moist soil vegetation. Grass carp can go to those types of food sources once the aquatic vegetation is gone. So we see bulrushes being pulled from the shore and pulled out into the deep water and being eaten by grass carp. So certainly that'll happen. And then the common carp, which has been here over 100 years, makes the water muddy. And that would further shade out any native plants, which waterfowl depend upon.
So essentially, we're talking about a very broad picture. It's not just what's in the Illinois River. It can have a wide impact.
I think most of the people who have gone out and seen eagles in the winter feeding on fish, you might not notice, but if you look a little bit closer, you will see that they eat Asian carp as well. So yeah, it can have reach beyond the edge of the water.
So we want to talk about round gobies in just a minute, but hold on, let's not go to round gobies yet. How do you control all these carp? I mean, they're here and they're thriving.
Sure.
Do we have a chance?
Well, about 60% of our biomass in places on the Illinois River are these invasive carps, bighead and silver. And certainly we know that these are the most cultured fish in the world. So there's a lot of sense behind the idea that we can harvest what the Illinois River produces and use it for food. They're quite delicious. And we just have to get it to places that would like to eat these, either process it into something you and I like, a hot dog or something more manufactured, or ship it to people either in China or the coast, those cultures that enjoy eating this fish.
And they actually have a shortage over in China right now?
They farm them in aquaculture pens. They're not really present in the river anymore because the biggest predator, humans, eat them. So they're cultured, and then the whole pond is drained, and all the fish come out, pound or two, and they never see a fish like we have here in the Illinois River.
So what I hear you saying is that we need to develop a taste for carp.
They're quite delicious. I think you'd like them when properly prepared.
Take the bones out, please.
Yeah.
Let's turn to the round goby. This is a very different animal. We'll show you that. Now, the round goby, it came to the Illinois about 2004. Is that right?
It was first detected in large numbers by then.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We don't know exactly when it arrived because it's when it's first detected. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of these species will simmer along for many years before something happens, a drought or some other event which really lets their numbers build up, and then they begin to take off.
What's wrong with the round goby? I mean, how's it disrupting things?
Well, these are the food web and at the bottom of our lake. Certainly it's one of the biggest biomasses in the Great Lakes currently, coming from Detroit and spreading out throughout the Great Lakes. It mimics a sculpin, a native fish, and outcompetes them because they're so aggressive. They spawn multiple times in a year. They eat eggs and other critters. They keep them from nesting. So they take over the food web, and now the native fish turn over and eat the gobies.
Mm-hmm.
This is an interesting situation because we're going to talk about zebra mussels in just a moment, but don't round gobies eat zebra mussels? So that's kind of a way of having one invasive species control another invasive species?
Yeah, it's been one of the ideas all along is that you can use animals as biocontrol or bioengineering, but we always seem to forget about some of the extra little connections that go on there. And in the case of the zebra mussel and the round goby, there's also the idea that the presence of the zebra mussel, a food that the goby knows and knows how to eat, actually made it easier for the goby to come into the system and stay in the system. If there hadn't have been something it was familiar with, maybe it would have taken longer, or maybe it wouldn't have done as well.
And once again, it's the food chain. The double-crested cormorant, which exists down in Emiquon, down in Fulton County, in large numbers, actually eats round gobies?
That's correct. They are the right size for forage fish and bait fish.
We talk about fish so far, so let's turn our attention to crayfish. I think most people are familiar with crayfish, use the tails for bait, etc. There's something called the rusty crayfish we see on the screen right now, and it's more or less displacing the common crayfish, or there's a lot of native crayfish, but what's happening here?
Well, certainly we want to prevent them from taking over. We have maybe 14 species of crayfish in Illinois. These are from the Ohio River Basin, very few in Illinois. But because they grow large and more aggressive, they've been used in culture and as food and in our bait buckets. And they've been moved all around the Midwest to become highly invasive because they challenge the native crayfish where they're introduced. They can take all the vegetation from a lake, and pretty soon it changes the food web. They can feed all day instead of having to hide from the other fish because their size is so much larger, and quickly take over a body of water.
You've mentioned different clarities of water, and I think most of us, myself included, would say the clearer the water, the better. Is that a misconception on my part?
Well, it sort of depends on how you think about it. If you're thinking about drinking and swimming, then clear water is absolutely the way to go. But you also have to realize that what is clouding the water is not always just mud. It's phytoplankton and food for the other fish. So clear water tends to be less productive than cloudy water. And if you have lower productivity at the base of the food web, it stands to reason as you move up to the bass and to some of the sport fish, you'll probably have lower amounts of them as well.
And the reason I brought up the topic is I want to talk about water sources, because Lake Michigan and the Illinois River are water sources for us to drink. And I remember when zebra mussels first came about, they were clogging up water intake. We don't hear about the zebra mussel anymore. Why?
Well, one reason is that they quickly had to evolve, people and industry, to deal with that. So they have to chlorinate their pipes, and so now it's just part of doing business. They have to maintain that. Technically, the zebra mussel's almost gone because their dirty little cousin called a quagga mussel has taken over.
And how big is the zebra mussel? We see it on the screen right now.
Oh, an inch and a half would be a large zebra mussel.
So they're small.
They are small.
Now, let's talk about the source of, there's several different invasive species that have come through ship ballast.
Correct.
Can you explain how that works?
The idea is that if you think about a ship moving across from Europe to the United States, perhaps it might be transporting cars or something heavy as it comes over here. It will offload that and then unload something else that might weigh less to take back to Europe. They never travel empty. But to cross the ocean, they have to ride low enough in the water that they won't be tippy or have trouble. They'll pump in their holds full of water from the local harbor. And it can work in either direction. When they take in those millions of gallons of water, they are hoovering up anything that could be in the water with it, whether it's everything from viruses and bacteria to fish to eggs to invertebrates. But when they arrive in the next port, they no longer want to sit low in the water. They've got to get all that water pumped out before they can move into the inland waterways.
So it's a global economy.
It is globalization. The good news is that they are exchanging ballast water via the trip. From fresh water, they make them called node ballast on board. They'll actually take on salt water, so they're not bringing those freshwater critters to the Great Lakes.
We have a couple more we want to show our audience. New Zealand mud snail is next on our list. Now, this is a small animal. It's 4 to 6 millimeters in size. Take a look at the dime, and you can see I don't know how many are there, but there's hundreds and hundreds there. What can you tell us about the New Zealand mud snail? It's so small. Why do we care? How do we know it exists?
It's not exactly charismatic megafauna, but you know it exists when you get into some of the stream systems with it, and you will just literally see meters and meters of rock completely covered by these little snails. And again, the problem with them is that they're grazers like cows. They move over the surface and they eat up all the algae and bacteria they can get. And if they're eating it, then others are not.
And much like the zebra mussel, they can clog up water intake
They can.
in large numbers.
Right, right. You can see quickly, if they fill things up, they can stop water flow and can be moved around by fishermen and birds and other things like that.
The bloody red shrimp gets my nomination for best name of this group of animals. It's not very big, 6 to 13 millimeters in length. And once again, probably came from ship ballast. What can you tell us about the bloody red shrimp that causes us a problem? You see, it's almost translucent.
Right, right. Can be attractive even. Who doesn't like shrimp? But we have native species of shrimp that our fish depend upon. This one has spines on it and doesn't quite act like the other shrimp, so it's not used as food and actually can prey upon our native fish.
Andy, you grew up in Chicago. You remember alewives. Now, alewives can actually control this population?
They can affect them. Again, it's sort of that mismatch where you need to have a certain amount of a predator at a high enough number to actually exert any kind of control on these. Things like the mud snails, zebra mussels, and the bloody red shrimp, if you let up on them, their populations will just explode past the point where anybody can affect them.
One more I want to talk about. We don't necessarily have a slide of this, but I want to talk about the water flea. A water flea. Why am I worried about a water flea?
Well, I think a lot of people might not be aware that water fleas, they're real low on the food chain, but they're an important resource. They transfer food, again, from the smallest microbes to some of the young fish. But these invasives, many of the problem invasive water fleas, have their own little defenses like horns and spines and differences in shape that make them hard to handle. It's kind of like trying to eat a gobstopper or something like that. If it's too big for your mouth, you're just not going to eat it.
In the couple of minutes that we have remaining, Kevin, you're co-chair of the what task force?
The Aquatic Invasive Species Task Force for the Council of Great Lakes Governors, the governors and premiers from around the Great Lakes.
And what is it? What's the charge for this task force?
So, been in place since 2001. These governors and premiers are worried about economy. And invasive species affect the economy of the Great Lakes, the fishing and everything else, the recreation on the lakes. And we don't want to see things like silver carp jumping and hitting boaters. We don't want bloody red shrimp or invasive plants coming, disturbing our very clear Great Lakes. So we're trying to be very clear on a direction and policy in that way.
So, and please jump in. You're not a member of the task force, are you?
That's correct.
But jump in, please. So how successful are we as a unit? We're looking at a multi-state effort. How successful are we?
Well, most recently, Governor Quinn and other governors and premiers around the Great Lakes have come together on a mutual aid agreement. So when we have an introduction or need assistance, that we can work together. This is pretty important for an invasive species issue, that we can share resources and information. So we are acting as a basin instead of just one state trying to make its way.
And from a scientific perspective, it is always very important to be able to identify somebody to ask questions to. If you think you've got a problem or you think something is just around the corner, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years to get the information from scientific literature. But if I'm part of a panel and I happen to know somebody in Ontario who's dealt with this problem and I can pick up the phone and talk to them, that's extremely important.
I want to bring up one final issue for you to address, and that is Governor Quinn has designated the month of May, this month, as Invasive Species Month?
Invasive Species Awareness Month.
Awareness Month.
Right. We definitely need to reach out to people and make them aware about these critters around them. Backyard ponds and pools are very high, the water garden industry. We don't want to bring in the worst of the players and then release them back into our local ponds and waters. So it's a way to reach out and really prevent the spread of aquatic and other invasive species.
Real briefly, on the whole, how well are we doing at controlling invasive species?
We still have native species, and water quality and biodiversity are still increasing and improving. So clearly we're having some successes.
And with that, I have to say thank you to both of you. To Kevin Irons, Aquaculture and Aquatic Nuisance Species Program Manager for the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and also to Andy Casper, Director of the Illinois River Biological Station with the Illinois Natural History Survey. Thank you to both of you for telling me about invasive species, and that I shouldn't worry as much as I have been worrying, except I don't ski on the Illinois River anymore. And with that, we thank you for joining us on that issue. Next week, please join us again when we're going to be talking about the Illinois River again, but this time we're going to be talking about what to do with sediment, that silt that sits at the bottom of the river. How do we use that silt, much like we can use invasive species to our benefit, I suppose. And we'll do that with the members of the Heartland Water Resources Council next week. Please join us for another edition of At Issue.